I feel like I'm a little late to the party here, as 2023 has already had quite a number of pretty solid JRPG releases. One Piece Odyssey, Fire Emblem Engage, Atelier Ryza 3, Octopath Traveler 2. But that's just scratching the surface. There are so many incredible JRPGs on the immediate horizon, and I intend to go over what exactly those are. Here are the 13 JRPGs that I am most hyped for in 2023. Granblue Fantasy Relink is a gorgeous open-world anime RPG from Platinum Games and Cygames that has been in active development since 2016. There have been a few delays over the course of the last several years, but it was confirmed to be releasing at last in 2023. Unfortunately, the studio hasn't given us an exact release date, so it does run the risk of being delayed once more, but given the trailers showcasing all of the progress, I would wager I guess it's pretty close to being in a final state. Granblue Fantasy Relink is set in the same universe as the other Granblue games, potentially featuring familiar faces, areas, abilities. It also utilizes a full action combat system aiming to set itself apart from its turn-based competition. Granblue Fantasy Relink is releasing onto PC, PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 5 in 2023. Before I elaborate on any other games, let me thank all of my incredible patrons for putting up with me and supporting me for as long as they have. I deeply appreciate all of you. Also, if you have a moment, consider following me over on Twitch. I stream there every weekend, and we'll be streaming Honkai Star Rail and the Wuthering Waves closed beta there this month. Trails into Reverie, and I'm pretty sure I butchered that name, released in Japan back in 2020 and has left many fans of the Trails series eagerly anticipating its global release. Developed by Nihon Falcom, Trails into Reverie takes players back into the world of the larger Legend of Heroes series. Reverie specifically features a large world to explore, a traditional turn-based combat system, a ton of characters to recruit, and an interesting new type of progression in the form of the Crossroads system, allowing for the swapping between the three different protagonists and their respective stories. Trails into Reverie is releasing globally on July 7th onto PC, the Switch, PS4, and PS5. Blue Protocol is a unique amalgamation between an MMO and a JRPG, blending the two genres together, offering both a single-player experience for players that want to tackle it as a solo JRPG, or multiplayer for those of us that would prefer a full MMO experience. Developed by Bandai Namco, Blue Protocol takes us into an enormous open world filled with life, boasting some of the best graphics the MMO genre has to offer. It features a full-action combat system with a soft lock for players that lack the ability to aim. It's also one of my most anticipated MMOs of the last several years. Blue Protocol is releasing globally in 2023 onto PC and I believe PlayStation at some point. It is unconfirmed when. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is a Kickstarter-backed JRPG, one of the four most successful Kickstarter-backed projects in the history of the platform, developed by Rabbit and Bear Studios, featuring the talented programmers that brought us the incredible Suikoden JRPGs of decades past. Much like Suikoden, Eiyuden Chronicle is going to feature the 108 Stars of Destiny. I'm sure a lot of you will remember exactly who those are and who the recurring characters were, or as close to the 108 Stars of Destiny as possible. A gorgeous sprite graphical style like the older Suikoden games, a turn-based combat system, and will be the spiritual successor, along with the title that reignites the franchise, spawning additional games if found to be a success. Eiyuden Chronicle will be releasing at some point in 2023 onto PC, Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series. Trinity Trigger is a very traditional, older school JRPG taking inspiration from what I can only explain as the Mana series, Legend of Mana, Secret of Mana, developed by Furyu. I don't know a whole lot about the game, it's really only been on my radar for the last couple months, and I haven't delved too deeply into it as to not spoil the game for both Mrs. Sticks and I, given the game supposedly has fully functional co-op. It does feature action combat and have several recruitable characters, but I'm not sure how co-op will work due to that. Trinity Trigger is releasing this month on April 25th onto Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC. I don't think much is needed in the way of explaining what Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is. Rebirth is the second part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake project, remaking the entire Final Fantasy RPG from 1997. Featuring a massive open world, probably much larger than Part 1, along with some of the best graphics the industry has to offer right now. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will be releasing during winter 2023 on the PS5, with the PC release expected down the line, much like Part 1. Rune Factory was one of my mother's favorite video game franchises. Rune Factory and Harvest Moon specifically. My mother passed away on December 25th, 2022, Christmas morning, to cancer at the young age of 59, so she'll never get to experience this. I, on the other hand, will play it in her memory and will be thinking of her at every moment, and probably romancing the same character that she did in the original Rune Factory 3, as Rune Factory 3 was one of her favorite incarnations of the franchise. Rune Factory 3 Special isn't a remake, rather it's a remaster of the older action sim Rune Factory 3, including a surplus of new features and releasing onto the Switch. Not just the Switch though, but also onto PC on September 5th. Eternights is a JRPG featuring a cast of horny guys and girls as they try and navigate a post-apocalyptic world, all the while balancing their relationship with one another, scavenging for food and resources, running through and clearing dungeons. The game features fully animated cutscenes, fleshed out romances with each of the characters, and an action combat system. Eternights will be releasing onto PS4, PS5, and PC at some point in 2023. It's currently unconfirmed when. Fairy Fencer F Refrain Cloud is the sequel to Fairy Fencer F, released all the way back in 2023. Developed by Sting, Refrain is a tactical RPG reminiscent of something like Final Fantasy Tactics or Fire Emblem, the two games that immediately come to mind. I never played the original Fairy Fencer F, so I'm going to need to before playing this one, but I am a very big fan of strategy games, so this caught my attention. The game released back in Japan in September 2022 and will be releasing globally on April 25th onto the Switch, PC, PS4, and PS5. Final Fantasy XVI is one of the highest profile releases of 2023, developed by Square Enix. Final Fantasy XVI has been in active development since 2015 and will take place in the larger Final Fantasy universe, but will remain largely unconnected to any former title, as Final Fantasy games tend to do. Final Fantasy XVI will utilize a full action combat system, much like its predecessor 15, and unlike neither 13 or 14, which used turn-based and tap target combat respectively. Final Fantasy XVI will feature an enormous open world to explore, but will also, I believe, be one of the first main title Final Fantasy games to not feature a large cast of recruitable party members. Final Fantasy XVI will be releasing on June 22nd onto the PS5 exclusively. For those of you following the Sword Art Online series, you're probably already aware of Last Recollection, but for those of you that aren't, Sword Art Online Last Recollection is a culmination of the entire Sword Art game series, featuring high-speed battle, MMO-like multiplayer, dozens of playable characters, and the largest number of unique endings, as players take on the role of Kirito as he tries to save the virtual underworld. Last Recollection will be releasing on October 5th onto PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox, and Xbox Series. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is one of the other highest profile releases of 2023. Developed by Nintendo as a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom is an action-adventure game, not specifically a JRPG, but it's definitely a game featuring RPG elements, so I feel like it needs to be included. It'll feature the seamless open world that Breath of the Wild was known for, which the studio has expanded upon for additional vertical exploration. Joined by Zelda, players will venture across a larger world than ever before as we attempt to uncover what malevolent force seeks to destroy Hyrule this time. And since Ganon is confirmed to be in-game, voiced by Matthew Mercer, if I recall correctly, and if Twitter is not lying to me, he probably has something to do with it. Tears of the Kingdom is launching on May 23rd as a Switch exclusive, as Zelda games don't release on non-Nintendo platforms. Okay, so Stellar Blade is not a JRPG, it's a KRPG, as in Korean RPG, but I can't help but include this because it shares so many similarities to Nier Automata, another personal favorite of mine, developed by Shift Up, who is known for huge assets. I typoed on my script here. Huge asset? Yeah, assets. Stellar Blade takes place in a world where humanity was driven from Earth after losing a war against aliens. Seems about right. Eve, who you take control of, comes to Earth to kick their bubblegum and chew their asses. No, choose it. Wait, hold on. No, wait. Oh man, I must have been half asleep when I typed this out. Comes to Earth to kick, hold on. Okay, Eve, who you take control of, comes to Earth to kick their asses and chew some bubblegum. And she's all out of ass. Wait, no, that isn't right. Anyway, Stellar Blade is a gorgeous game with a very fast, very fluid action combat system, but seems to be somewhat of a segregated, possibly linear game. Stellar Blade will be releasing at some point in 2023, it's unconfirmed when, onto PS5. And they're the JRPGs that I'm looking forward to playing this year, releasing over the next several months, most of them, so I'm going to have a lot to play, including all of the gacha and the MMOs that I'll be putting time into, which include games like Wuthering Waves, Honkai Star Rails, Endless Zone Zero, Throne and Liberty, Blue Protocol, and so many more. Now, if these games don't look like something that you'd be interested in, no problem. I got you covered with 2 different videos on screen right now. One featuring every gacha releasing this month, the other, a gacha that I'm really interested in, hopefully playing at some point later this year.